guys, and welcome back to another segment of our How to Fight with the Chinese Broadsword tutorial series. Today we're going to be talking about something a little bit more theoretical, a little more tactical than what we've covered before, but I think it's a really critical topic, especially if you're looking to actually fight with a Chinese broadsword. Because this is one of those things that unless you've actually laid weapons on someone, you don't really think about so much. Now, obviously this exists in empty-hand combat as well, so if you've done some sanda, sparring, or any sort of MMA work, you've probably encountered some of these concepts, but it differs a little bit in sword. And what we're going to be talking about is distance, because distance is critical to sword work. An inch can make a world of difference, because if you're just a little bit too far for your opponent to hit, you survive. If you're just a little bit closer than you think you are, you get hit. And the ability to control that distance is fundamental to the ability to win swordplay encounters. Now, the ability to control that distance is also fundamental to the ability to understand the idea of that distance. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. In this video, we're mostly going to talk about concepts of distance. And in our next video, we're going to talk about how to control distance, using things like timing and deception and tempo. But for now, we're going to talk about what is distance, what does that mean, and how do we control and use that in our own theoretical mind. So if I'm squared off against Matt, what I need to understand is where I am in relation to Matt and in relation to the reach of both our swords. Because broadsword, as we've talked about so often, is fought from very close. We've talked a lot about maintaining the bend in the elbow, the bend in the wrist, making a lot of the sweeps, a lot of the head wraps. And really, if I'm going to try to fight with the broadsword in that way, that requires me to be over here with Matt to make those close engagements. It requires me to be over here closing, wrapping, grappling, doing whatever. The mistake that a lot of novice sword players make is that they try to just go over there and do that. If Matt and I are in our ready positions and I go, oh, I want to go over there and engage Matt, but it's a broadsword, so I have to be really close, and I can walk over here and try to fight Matt for broadsword distance. If Matt has any sense about him at all, what's going to happen is while I'm coming over here to walk over here and get in broadsword distance, he's just going to reach out and hit me. So what I need to understand is the fundamental concept of distance, and within that, the distances that I really want to be generally aware of is, if Matt backs up just a little bit, what we are now is we are out of distance. Even if I come into my mountain climbing stance and cut, I can't hit Matt. He's too far away. We are out of distance. I'm essentially safe. We can't hit each other. Now from here, I can move into a lunge or a reaching distance, or if I take a little bit of a step forward, now if I come into my mountain climbing stance, now I can hit Matt at full extension. Now I'm not in broadsword distance, I'm still reaching with that, but I can get to him, and what that means is he can also get to me. Now, if I close that up into my basic ready stance, I'm now in distance. I am within distance where I can make a very simple, very easy cut to Matt, and he can probably do the same thing to me. We're both able to reach each other. Okay? Now from here, I can move into what's called in-fighting distance, which for a straight sword is pretty close, pretty tight, means you're going to start grappling, and for broadsword is really kind of an optimal distance to be at, and that's where I'm going to be close enough that I can now engage with the offhand. That's really what's going to demarcate that in-fighting distance. Is here, I can actually bring that other hand to bear. I can use that to close in. I can even reach out and try to secure before my attack, and that's going to be a very close, tight distance. And that's really where the best of broadsword happens. Now, where this becomes important is the understanding of how I get from one place to the other. And what that requires me to do really is one of two things with that understanding of distance. I either need to engage my opponent's blade in some way to protect myself as I move in. Whether that is I just reach in and smack it out of the way and close in. Whether that is I throw an attack from out here, and as he moves to defend that, I use that attack to then yield and roll in with an advancing ward-off motion. Or whether I simply am aware that I'm passing through these distances, and so I maintain an active awareness of, okay, I'm going to try to very quickly close that ground, but he could attack. I can even move in and invite that attack where, back up just a little bit, where here we're out of distance again. Well, I can kind of reach him. I'm at that reaching distance, but as I move in, I'm going to go, okay, I know he can attack, but I'm going to kind of move in such a way that I'm like, hey, is he going to attack? Try to get him to make that attack, so that I can then engage that attack and move in to close that ground, because now I've secured his blade. Okay? So what I'm doing there is I'm engaging the blade either from the outside distance, forcing him to defend, some way making him do something. I'm making him respond. Or I am prepared for the fact that if I'm not making him respond, then he can attack, but I'm coming in with that in mind. I'm creating an intention within myself where I'm soft, I'm relaxed, I'm ready, so that as his attack comes in, I'm like, okay, that's what I'm waiting for. There it is, now I'm going to engage and close to that distance that I want to fight from. okay? And that's the idea of distance, and it's fundamental and it's important, and if you don't pay attention to it, you get hit a lot, okay? So if you want to stop getting hit a lot, be aware of distance, because what that probably means is you're trying to transition distances without actually controlling the fight. Because I can control my opponent's blade entirely, okay? And that's where the idea of timing, tempo, right of way, and control comes in, because if he and I are squared off and I make a cut and he parries, I'm in control of his blade right now. Now, I'm not in physical control like I'm moving it, but I have made him put his sword over here. I think, well, I don't want his sword to be able to cut me, so I'm going to go like this. He's either going to get hit or he's going to put his sword over there. I know his sword's going to end up there, so from here, I can now use that to my advantage, okay? So you've got to take control of your opponent's blade as you transition those distances. Be keenly aware of that. The other thing I do want to highlight briefly is be aware of what is within range. Because just because he can't hit me in the body, so if we're standing here, I can't necessarily hit Matt's body. But guess what I can hit? I can hit his wrist or his hand. So be aware of what your opponent can reach. Because if you think, oh, I'm way out of distance, I'm going to start this cut so that I can come in and force his attack, and I go, hey, he can reach out and nip that wrist right off. Okay? Because even if he can't reach the rest of me, he can still get to that. So be aware of your hand, of where your hand is. Because a good swordsman doesn't care about hitting you. Their first target is your hand because it's what's physically closest to them. And I guarantee in an actual sword fight, if I hit you in the wrist, we're done with our sword fight. Because you can't sword fight anymore. So be aware of the position of your wrist, be aware of the different distances, and be aware of how to transition through those. Alright? Go ahead and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything coming up. Throw a like on this video so everybody knows how awesome we are. Heck, share it to your Facebook page. Indulge your friends. Then they'll buy broadswords and you'll have somebody to practice with. Practice is important. Okay, our next video we're going to talk about this distance more, but we're going to start talking about how to control the distance in a more effective way using some other tools within our tactical repertoire. Okay? So make sure you don't miss that, and we'll see you guys next time.